never faze me. They watch the steps that I be taking. That's why they say that I'm amazing. Been the top dog before the nonsense. I've always been a public figure. Now the frame didn't got too big, cause more people wanna get up in it.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm your host, John Madsen. This is the show. Today's episode, I'm going to talk about how people go two steps forward, 2 steps back. I'm going to talk about how they go 5 steps forward, 5 steps back, or even 10 steps forward, 10 steps back. There's a reason that 95% of businesses never reach $1 million. There's a reason that I think that I heard this stat somewhere that 95% of businesses are out of business within 10 years. There's a reason why most people have lost 20 pounds before, and then they gain it all back, and then they lose it again, and then they gain it all back. And over a 10-year period, they've lost 200 pounds and gained it all back because it's the same 20 pounds each and every year. 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. For some of you, you do this on micro level, a weekly level, where you go 2 steps forward in the week and then the weekend takes you 2 steps back. Once again, in fitness and or business. Probably both. Some of you flex that consistency muscle for a little bit longer. They might go 90 days forward and then 90 days backward. Possible they're doing something that asks for their consistency for 75 days. And so they go 75 days forward and then go 75 days backwards. And for a few of you, you might even go 5 years forward and then go 5 years backwards. The interesting thing here is that you could do something for 75 days and make a whole shit ton of progress and then take 10 days off and wipe out all the 75 days. It's not fair. The game is rigged. That's why so few people win, because you could do almost everything right for a year, and then in 15 to 20 days, or maybe even a month, you wipe out the progress made in a year. And once again, that's why people are on this roller coaster. And the thing that I realize is this: without consistency, excellence doesn't exist. I should even make that better. Without supreme, relentless, monotonous, boring consistency, excellence does not exist. And so really what I want to burn into you today is this idea that consistency is actually very, 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 very simple, but it's not easy. Showing up is a superpower. You'll never beat the guy who shows up relentlessly and consistently over decades. You can't beat him because he never goes away. And so what people do a lot, and what people are gonna do, because we're nearing this end of the year where December is right around the corner, Christmas is gonna be here like that, and then we have all of the hype and the excitement of the new year. So people are gonna be gung-ho about their goals, especially in the fitness industry. And so what happens is people come out the gate with this level 10 intensity that they can't sustain. And it's a problem because there's always burnout at the end. And you go so hard for a short amount of time that you cannot sustain, and then you end up going backwards because the burnout is too strong. So how do you fix this? One of my superpowers is just getting up and showing up. In football, one of my superpowers was going to practice every single day. I was willing to suck. I was willing to get embarrassed. I was willing to get criticized. I was willing to be completely embarrassed. I got embarrassed in business, and I just kept getting up every morning and going into work and relentlessly pursuing what was on my heart. And to this day, it's the same thing. With this podcast, it's the same thing. Over 3 years ago, I don't even know how long ago. And it's just like, I come into the office, I hit play, I hit record, and I document whether I feel like it or not. But this relentless consistency is the thing that's gonna set you free. It is the actual thing. There's no other way. Some of you might be able to do it faster. Some of you, it's gonna take more time. Some of you are ahead of others right now. We don't all start at the same place. But regardless if it takes you 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, if you're gonna sustain any amount of success, if you're gonna sustain any amount of winning, you have to be able to keep your foot on the gas and show up day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And here's the hard part: decade after decade. You see, in business, I watch these guys who want to get into the fitness game, and they get in and it's not as easy as they thought, and they're in it for 2 or 3 years and then they bounce out of it. Or I see guys who are even successful in this fitness thing and they make some money and they're like, you know what, this seems pretty hard. I'm going to bounce over here because I think I can make some money a little bit easier. And so then they get out of the game and they start something new. And maybe that's the right choice for them. Maybe it's not. But what I'm saying is I'm in this shit and I'm going deep. Superhuman isn't like, hey, I'm gonna do this for a couple years and I'm gonna bounce over here. I'm going deep because why? It's mission driven for me. I get inspired. I inspire myself by thinking about waking up and creating fucking superhumans. Like, I geek out about it. It fires me up to think that we can transform people and take them completely out of mediocrity, completely out of this average celebrated world, and become elite in everything that they do. But in order to do that, they have to have this one thing. They have to have this one character trait. They have to have this one muscle that has to be flexed over and over and over again, which is consistency. It is the secret sauce. And the more people you talk to that has a physique that you admire, or maybe it's a business that you admire, if you really talk to them and ask them what it took, there's going to be this common thread that they were not willing to quit and they showed up day after day after day. So how do you flex this muscle? How do you bring more consistency in your life? I'm going to give you 3 ways today. Number 1, you have to fall in love with the outcome. And for some of you, you can't find that because it's too surface. You're sitting here watching me right now and you're married and you have a couple kids that love you and your life is good. And you're sitting there and you're thinking like, John, why would I even care to have a 6-pack? Like, why does it even matter? And even if you're like not that and you're like, dude, I want that, you're not in love. You're not in love with it all. If I wasn't completely in love with the outcome, I wouldn't wake up at 4:30 a.m. I'd hit snooze. I'd find excuses. I'd negotiate my standards. I'd negotiate with myself. I'd lie to myself. I'd do all the things that people do if I wasn't completely in love with the outcome. So if you want to be consistent, you better fall in love with whatever outcome that is. Number 2, you got to find the deep why. So I'm in love with the outcome, but there's also this deep purpose that I can find and tie the outcome to in my soul. I always say one of my most popular episodes on this podcast is titled, I think, Why Successful Married Men Suck at Fitness. They can't find the reason to do whatever they got to do to have it. Like, you got to A, fall in love with the outcome. B, number 2, you have to know why it's important to you in the first place. You have to have a purpose there. If there's no purpose, there will be no process followed. So people talk about this self-discipline and this constant willpower. I don't play that game. I'm seduced by the outcome. I have uncovered layers in my heart to find the purpose of what I want so that I don't have to rely on willpower. I don't have to rely on self-discipline. I have something far more powerful. And then number 3, you do have to respect the process. Because I can be seduced by the outcome and then try to shortcut the process, and that's never going to work. There's shorter ways, there's more efficient ways, but you can't cheat the system. Can't cheat it. So you have to respect that process. And if you're going to respect the process, you have to know what the process is. That's why the beautiful thing about our program and why so many people get the most ridiculous results is because the process is laid out. The process not only works on me, it's worked on thousands of people. The process is an open book. It's literally right here, but you still have to respect it. So when that alarm clock goes off, I have to respect that process. I actually have to do the work. That doesn't mean that I have to love the work all the time. If I did, it would be better. But I'm telling you, when I have heavy ass dumbbells in my hands and I have 30 steps of walking lunges, I don't love any of that. I don't love how it feels. I don't love it at all, but I respect it. And so if you want to bring more consistency in your life, don't forget these 3 things. Number 1, fall in love with the outcome. Number 2, find the deep why that's in your soul. And then number 3, respect the process. And if you do those 3 things, you will start to build the consistency that 99% of the people don't have. We'll see you next week.